Good afternoon to all of you. It's always nice to be here under and, kind of participating in IMA events. I think IMA does a wonderful job of thinking through. And Pragati, as you all know, it's on its 7th edition. And when something is moved to a 7th edition, then I think you need to have a theme that is building up, right? You can't every year say, let's take this theme and make it work. So I think, as rightly shared by everyone, we have a steering committee. And Meenaji, you've done an awesome job, because every time we sit down and we sit and we say, what is going on in the world today? How are women empowering themselves? Are we really celebrating the achievements of women? And I think we think through it, and then the panels emerge. And I must give credit to the steering committee for making such a beautiful, theme, which saying, future-proof yourself. I think it's incumbent on each one of us to future-proof ourselves. And you may ask that question of this panel. When the better half of your journey, or maybe half, or maybe 3/4 of your journey as a professional is over, how do you still continue to future-proof yourself? How do you still continue to make yourself relevant? I think the questions that plague a panel like this are more in line of being relevant and being employable, if I may use that word, and being there so that you can contribute meaningfully to what you do. The earlier panel, it's so refreshing when you hear their stories, because I felt that they were somewhere even halfway through the journey. They could still carve out a niche for themselves and future-proof, themselves to move ahead. The theme that we have for this panel, and I would love it if we all kind of, stay there and say, how do you aspire? How do you accelerate and achieve? I think it's very easy to say that, you can sit here on a dais and say, you know what, we've all achieved. It's not really true, because achievement could mean many different things to different people. So what could be achieved for me may not necessarily be achieved for Dr. Payal, right? So this and more, I think we would be successful in our panel if we engage you all mentally, if we leave you with a lot of questions than answers, if we manage to have you look at your respective lives as professionals where you are today, and how do you future-proof yourself, and how do you continue to aspire yourself, accelerate on those dreams, and have achievements happen. So I think that, in a sense, would be success for this panel. And I'm sitting among some very, very diverse and a very interesting club. I'm going to leave them to introduce themselves briefly. But the way in which we are structuring this 1 hour that we'll spend with you is, and that's not my thought, I think I stole it away from Colonel, which is that when you're talking about opportunities ahead, can you bucket them into a couple of buckets? One could be in the past and the present. What were some of the opportunities that came your way, and how did you seize them? Did they work for you? Did they not work for you? Let's also look at the present. Let's also look at the future. Let's look at the future and say, how do you continue to grab or look out for those opportunities? And there's one pillar which is still missing, which is the missed pillars. There are some opportunities which we've missed, deliberately, voluntarily, involuntarily, not knowing whether they were an opportunity that could work well for me. So I think this is the format that we look at. The panel here is, I have a dean on my extreme right. I have a chef here who, by her lovely uniform, you can see that she's a chef and she's here. And a doctor right here. We have a colonel from the army right here. And we have this lovely lady who's also from the corporate world. I also belong to the corporate world. So let's have this discussion. It's interesting in our panel that we have a colonel. And I was also, impressing upon him, saying, why are we only talking about women? Let's talk about men also. Why don't we also ask him how his journey has been? And let's bring in that dimension, which could be gender neutral, maybe, or let's see how it goes. So now I leave it to the panel, and let me call upon, let's start with you, Doctor. Past, present, What were the opportunities that came your way that you seized and that made you who you are today?